Good morning, everybody. Senator Patty Schachtner is my very special guest today, Friday, October 2nd, 2020. It is second.
Good morning, Zach.
Yeah, it is a second. I'm Ben Dryden, and you are watching Meet the Candidate, a special Dryden Wire live series where every Friday I chat with a different candidate running for elected office. Today, I am very pleased to welcome back for a chat Senator Patty Schachtner. Patty is a member of Wisconsin's State Senate, representing District 10. She assumed office on February 20, 2018, and is running for re-election this November against Republican challenger Representative Rob Staffsholt, who will be here, I think, next Friday for Meet the Candidate. But today is Senator Schachtner. So, Miss Patty, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. Glad to be here.
Yeah. How many of these do you do on an average week?
Virtual meetings?
Yeah.
A lot. Maybe I had 3 the other day, one right after each other. And it was so interesting. You just log off and go to another one and log off and go to another one. And I'm getting pretty used to it. But it's, this 21st century technology has really changed the way we do things, and it's really changed the way business is being done. I look at all the mileage my car is thankful, and all the time that you can kind of navigate through multiple things and do multiple things and accomplish a lot and still have time to do more.
Yeah, we were talking before we went live here about with Zoom. And right now, we unfortunately, thankfully, this will be changed soon. We use Skype to run through this program, and then there's Google Hangouts, and then the Meet, and everyone uses something different. It seems like, and that's the frustrating part. It's wait, what are we using? Oh shoot, I got to download that, and I got to figure out how to use that one now, and how do I hook my camera up to this one? And it'd be nice if we just had one. That'd be nice.
Yeah. Well, you kind of sound like me in a lot of stuff. I always say when we talk about information, I came from the era of the Britannica, so we all had one source of information, and that was it.
Yeah.
And now, with technology and the internet, there's like 5,000 sources for one question, and we have to glean through, what's what. But we long for the day of the Britannica. Just give me one choice.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Yeah. Hey, do you watch the debate on Tuesday?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
And I'm curious about your thoughts.
It was a little overwhelming. I think it doesn't matter who you supported. It was overwhelming. It was, I've been watching debates forever, and and to see it not kind of follow the traditional rules was a little weird. But we're in 2020.
Yeah.
It's just a crazy time right now.
Yeah. I was rooting for, so you'd say, it doesn't matter which candidate. I was rooting for Chris Wallace. Like after 2 minutes, I'm like, oh boy, like I can just see this guy. All right, everybody knows the rules. We're here to set. I got a list of my questions. Okay, here we go. Ready? Here we go. We're going live. And then 1 minute in, okay, just throw it out. Poor guy.
I talked to someone yesterday that said, you just needed to be in mom action at the grocery store when your kid's having a temper tantrum.
Yeah. And I know he just got raked over the coals for come on, get under control. Hey, I don't care what you think about Chris Wallace. Nobody would have been able to handle that any better.
No.
I mean, he was, oh my goodness. I don't know how he made it through that. No, and honestly, my wife and I, we had to turn it off. I think we made it to like 35, 40 minutes in, and like we were just getting anxious and angry and like, ugh, I don't like this feeling. So we just turned it off.
Yeah, I think a lot of people felt that way. And I think that's kind of how a lot of people feel right now. It's just this anxiety, and it's like we just need guidance.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Yeah. So what do you want to talk about today? Because you were just on in May. I believe you were here, well, virtually.
Yep.
You were remote learning us. In May, and then yesterday we did the 15 things you might not know about me, and learn a lot of stuff in there. And if we have time, I totally want to ask you about that wife swap you said you were a part of. What? So if we have time, I want to ask you about that. But that's on our website, drydenwire.com. So I think most people at this point know who you are. So we can really, take this time to talk about whatever it is that you want to talk about. We can get in some campaign stuff. I know I have a couple questions about that, but what have you been working on right now? What's happening with your current role as the senator in Wisconsin?
So it's really, I think winning the special election was unusual. And then, coming in at the end of session and then going into the new budget session, that was a whole new experience. That was the learning curve was steep. And then now going into campaign. So I came into this with an unusual campaign strategy because we only had 6 weeks. And now we're doing virtual campaigning. So it's weird again. And, I think safety is a huge piece. My whole career has been in healthcare. So a lot of people I know, a lot of people I work with, are down on the front lines and a lot of my family members. So I really do believe in the safety and keeping people safe and how important healthcare is for everybody. I think right now what this in this here time, what we didn't realize was how many inequities we'd see in District 10 when it came to COVID, especially when we talk about technology. There are so many people, when kids were forced to go to virtual learning, and we had so many students that didn't have access to internet. So it impacted the way they learn. Teachers that couldn't do their work. The broadband and education and healthcare are all connected so much. And this here really showed that Wisconsin, if we want to be a serious economic driver, we have to really look at 21st century Wisconsin. We're in the second decade of the 21st century, and some people in District 10 still have DSL. Some people do not have access at all to internet. And we are in the second decade. That is not appropriate. It is not appropriate.
That's not appropriate.
And it just isn't. And it's like, what happened? Why did we not take care of this?
Yeah. So why haven't we?
Well, I think, I'm on the broadband task force, the governor's task force for broadband. And there was a couple of people who are policymakers that were on there that said, we took care of all the low hanging fruit. And I think that's kind of, so we did the easy stuff. Now it's the hard stuff. How are we going to do it? What are our priorities? Do we need internet everywhere? And I think if we want to be 21st century, we have to look at the reality that we're going to have to come up with a lot of partnerships, and public, private, federal, just state, and work together, because I don't know anybody who is looking to move to a new area that's going to move there if they don't have access to high-speed internet. They're just not going to.
Yep.
So it's an economic driver. And if we don't have it, and when you hear people say, I want it to stay just the way it is, you're saying, I don't want to have economic development in this state. So it's huge. And it becomes a philosophical question about investments.
Well, it's like the electrification of America, right? I've heard that connection with broadband before. But you're absolutely right when it comes to people wanting to move to certain places. My wife and I were considering maybe someday. I really don't want to, but she does buy a house. So do we live in town, or do we go out in the country? We'd prefer to be out in the country. But the first thing when we start looking, okay, number one, no kidding, I don't care how many garage doors it has or how many rooms. Does it have high-speed internet access there? And if not, we can't move there because we need it for our jobs. And so it kind of limits our options.
Yep. Well, and that's the whole piece of, the economic development parts. Our homes are our most valued asset. So if we don't have access to high-speed internet, that really impacts our personal investments, which is, that's poor policy by not having it. We're all impacted by the internet. And for a lot of folks, that last mile can cost $2,000 to $5,000. So you can just have it at the end of the driveway, but if you don't have an extra $2,000 to $5,000 to bring it to your house, that's a huge, huge problem. Yeah. So there's a lot of things that we have to look at, and there's a lot of ways to get there. But broadband itself is key to healthcare. It's the key to education. It's the key to the environment. It's the key to economic development. It's the key agriculture. You just keep going on, and we don't have it.
So
Why?
You're on the task force. So now what? So all these things you said, first of all, 100% agree. And there's very few people I think that would disagree with what you just said. Mm-hmm. So how do we do it? What's next? What's coming up soon? Or when is this going to get done?
Yeah. So, well, the first thing we're doing is, having the task force. There's going to be some hearings. We're going to be doing them virtually. But what I'm asking folks is really to write your story and email it to my office so that we can start compiling what your experience is. And you can start mapping out and looking at, in District 10, here's all these people that live here that they want, access to technology and so that they can work from home, so that they can educate their children and all these here things, to have their doctor's appointments. And these are why we can't. And every time someone says, I can't do this, and they say it to a policymaker, the policymaker has to be able to answer why they can't, because we represent them. Yeah. What did we do in our policy that made it that investing in broadband wasn't a priority? Because I don't know about you, I kind of saw that technology was moving faster than we were. The fact that we're so far behind is not acceptable. It's not, and now it's a huge problem. And especially now with COVID, you have to have access to broadband, to internet, to do a doctor's appointment. And everything, it is impacting everything. It is impacting our lifestyle. It is impacting our healthcare. It is impacting our education. It's impacting our environment. And it's because we didn't invest in it.
Exactly. Exactly right. Because you've been on here before COVID, and we've talked about this stuff and the need for broadband, and everybody's talked about it. It's like, we really should, and we're looking into it. Well, COVID happened, and then we're like, so here's the thing. We need to speed this up fast, because this isn't going away, and it's really just kind of shined that proverbial light on this problem, and I think it's an actual problem.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, so, okay, we're going to do something, but it doesn't happen overnight. It's not magic.
Right. Yeah.
So you're talking, we're going to go years without access. So we're going to be maybe 3 decades behind because, it's, for example, the Webster School District, 600 square miles. 600 square miles. That's a lot of cable. And, how are you going to do that to get to the houses and to get to all the students? And that is a community where the average household income is $23,000. So that is a huge equity problem. And we have to look at all of District 10, just not the easy parts. It's when you take care of the hard stuff that equity starts happening. And we haven't been taking care of the hard stuff. How many households do you know that can survive in 2020 with $23,000 combined income?
Without a lot of assistance.
Yeah, in that. We have a community when we talk about healthcare. Our nurses' aides make about $12 to $15 an hour, CNAs. A lot of them are full-time. A lot of that, 70% of them are on Badger Care. If that same CNA who's taking care of our most vulnerable people makes more than $2,000 over the poverty rate, they lose their Badger Care. So we're keeping, we're putting people in these positions, giving them the hardest, most compassionate, empathetic jobs there are, and forcing them to stay in poverty. Opportunities. They need skills training. They need to be able to work and then find bridges to success. Because the fact that we have people in this district that are making that amount of money and working hard and trying to get stuff done is not equitable. And that is what the problem is.
And how do we address that problem? How do we fix that problem, if there is a fix?
Well, there is. It's opportunities. Webster is a prime example of a great school district who has lots of private and public partnerships when it comes to technical education with WITC to help students get credentials. the key is once you get, once everybody has an appetite to learn, and once you learn these things and get these skills and you find out that you're marketable, and if I can work in one part of District 10 for $12 an hour, but I can go across the river and do the same job for $25 an hour, where am I going to be?
Right.
I mean, it's like we have to stop saying that people who work for low wages do it by choice, and start looking at, okay, how do we increase our business community and our capacity so that people stay here to help us build our communities.
I want to switch gears a little bit, because you had brought up campaign stuff, and obviously virtual, everything's weird. So you're running, obviously, you're on the ballot this fall. So, boy, just over a month now. My goodness.
Yeah.
But you haven't run in a typical election. The last time it was a special election. Yes, I can bring it up again. And you beat out of Jarkow. But that was special election, just the two of you. So obviously that's a unique situation. Now you're on the ballot. You're running for re-election. But, man, now there's a lot of other people on the ballot, including a presidential race. Obviously, when it's just two people on a ballot, that's it, and that's all you're voting for. It's probably going to be a little bit lower of a turnout, obviously just for that district, certainly. But it's just the two of you. Now, people could potentially be voting for either you or for your opponent because of a whole bunch of other races that are going on. How are you concerned about that? Are you worried about that? Do you think about that? I mean, not actually dwell on it, because I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. But obviously this is different from your last election.
So yeah, it's really different. But I guess I probably look at it differently than a lot of people, and maybe I don't. I mean, I just look at it as I'm just Patty from Somerset. I'm a mom. I'm a wife, 40-some years, married my high school sweetheart, just kind of thought I'm just a normal person, never really had the aspirations to come to this level. And I have to be totally honest, I'm kind of weird. And to see my name on a sign next to Joe Biden's, it's like, I want to take a picture and send it to my history teacher.
Suck it.
Yeah, I just want to say, anyone can do this. And I think for people who are feeling that they're not good enough, that they don't have the right stuff to do these things, this is America, this is Wisconsin, we can all do this. The first thing is taking the first step and putting your name out there. But, thousands of people signed nomination papers that said that they had faith in me, and as with my opponent, and through the whole ballot, people up and down that ballot had faith in the people on the ballot that they could do good work. So, it's interesting, but you can't take everything so personal, because there's a lot of stuff that goes on that you're just like, oh, good God. But you have to look at it from a much bigger lens. And, I have students when I worked at school that are now voters that call me and text me and message me all the time, that are stepping up and volunteering and working on stuff that are really important. So I know that when I was working at the school district and the medical examiner's office, that you make impressions on people, and people watch you and follow you, and it makes a difference. Mm-hmm. And you might not know the people that are listening to you or what you said to them that makes a difference, but it does. And now, I'm at this level. I don't think, what I've learned is that I have a much bigger voice than I thought I did, and my experiences in life are more normal than not. And because they're more normal than not, people identify with me and realize that they too can step up and do big things, whether it's running for your town board, school board, nonprofit, doing whatever, and it all starts somewhere. So don't be afraid to fail. Some of the best things from life come from failing. It really does. And those are where the opportunities come. And so never be afraid to fail. And I think this journey for me has been one that not being afraid to fail is why I am where I am right now.
With 32 days, 31 or 32 days left to the election, what are you doing now? Is it okay? Everybody's pretty much made up their mind, or maybe
Hmm.
not. I would just assume most people have, and just about everything. So, what do
Yeah.
you do for the last 30 days?
So I do a lot of phone calls. I
Mm.
am calling for hours and hours on end, and I'm calling people just to check in that if they have their ballot, do they have a voting plan? I'm really concerned about that. I want to make sure that everybody has, that we have in Wisconsin. We're very lucky. You can absentee vote, you can go in person and vote early, or you can vote the day of. So you have three options. Have your plan ready. As someone who has worked in emergency services for forever, your pager goes off and stuff happens and you can plan to vote in person and then something happens. We're lucky that we have three different things that we can do.
Mm.
Have your plan ready. I've talked to people who haven't voted for me, who already sent their ballot back, and it was really funny. We have a conversation, and then I'm like, well, did you vote for me? And they're like, oh no. And I'm like, well, can I ask why? And they're like, well, because you're not Republican. And I'm like, well, what do you want to know? So then we have these wonderful conversations, and they're like, well, you're not mean. I'm like, no, I'm not a mean
Yeah.
person. And that. So I'm, and then I talked to one lady from Polk County. It was super funny. They were filling out their ballot, and by the time we got done with the conversation, her husband was listening, and she goes, well, honey, we're going to have a split home on this ballot. I'm like, yes. And then I talked to another lady, and she was an elderly lady, and she had her ballot, and she had told her son that she was going to vote for the first person that called, and that was me. And she yelled to her son, and she's like, we're going Democrat.
It's interesting how people decide how they vote.
Yes, and that. So it's fun to call people,
Yeah.
and I love doing it and reaching out, and it's fun, and it's fun talking to especially Republicans that say, well, you mean you will help me? And I'm like, yes. What do you need? And that, well, we had this problem. Okay, call my office. And they're like, well, I'm not going to vote for you. And I'm like, that's fine. Call my office. I serve you.
Yeah.
I don't serve just who vote for me. I serve you. And that's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Actually, it'd be a lot more interesting if you only serve the ones that voted for you.
Uh,
That'd be nice.
yeah.
So, what are you when you talk to people, or actually since we're getting up to the end of this election cycle, thank the Lord. When you kind of reflect a little bit over your time that you have been in the legislature, what are you the most proud of?
So I have, I've authored 55 bills and
That's it?
co-authored, sponsored 133, and that. So there's a lot of different things that I've done, and that most people, don't know that this is, what I've done in this time here. The thing I am the most proud of is the voter disability bill that myself and Shannon Zimmerman worked on. And right after I was elected in, a constituent reached out that had a complicated medical history and had a hard time verbalizing his name at the ballot, at the voting booth. And that's part of the process. So we wrote legislation that said that, you just have to present who you are at the ballot. And that opened up the door for 155,000 Wisconsinites to be able to now vote. You see, when you think about people that have had strokes, are on the autism spectrum, cerebral palsy, Parkinson's disease. There's a lot of people through no fault of their own that can't say their name, but that doesn't mean they can't think. And, and that they're not informed and they can't make a decision. We spend far too much time trying to figure out how to make it hard for people to vote and not figuring out how to allow people to vote. The fact, my uncle had a traumatic brain injury and had mental illness because of it, and he always voted. And I never realized how hard that was for people who couldn't communicate. And and I know a lot of people that have different things with their brains that might not be able to communicate their name well. That's not a reason to not allow them to vote. So that's my biggest one. I'm the most proud of. Probably impacted the least amount of people, but
Yeah,
for
that's
me,
big.
it's important.
Yeah, and so you obviously, so the 10th Senate District, you have three assembly districts, like obviously they all
Yep.
do. That would be the, I think, 28, 29, and 30. And 30, I think
Yep.
that's Shannon Zimmerman, right, in the 30th?
Yep.
And
Yep.
if I recall, he's Republican.
Yep.
So that was just really interesting to me that one of the things you're most proud of, you didn't even say that, yep, I was co-part of this or I worked on this. It's just interesting that you brought up someone and their name, knowing that they're Republican, but they're in your district and, you work together. I think that's what a
Yeah.
lot of people want to see. I'm just saying that was good for you.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's that one mattered, and it's I think when I worked at school, I worked with so many people, students that struggled with autism and medical problems and you don't realize that for those students once they get out of school how hard life is going to be for them. And this is just and when we signed the bill, one of the students that I worked with was there. And I mean, it touched my heart. It made my heart sing. That I was able to impact him that way.
All right, we got to change the subject. You're going to get everybody teary-eyed. If people didn't or haven't made up their mind yet, which, again, I believe most people have, what would you want to tell them if they're still undecided? What's your message to them?
My message to them is that with all my years of experience of going into people's homes in the worst time of their lives, whether it was they called 911 for help or because of an investigation that I worked on at the medical examiner's office, I never once asked them how they voted. My message to them is I serve people. I serve people. I look at what the problems are and I look for solutions. And my just basic history proves that. And my recent endorsement from Republican District Attorney, former Republican District Attorney Eric Johnson of St. Croix and Pierce County shows that. Mm-hmm. I worked with him on a lot of different things, just doing what's right. I'm not used to this, polarized environment. I'm used to working with people to solve solutions. Mm. And I am, like I had said to you earlier, I'm from the age of Britannica, but I realize that there's a lot of different ways that we can come up with solutions, and we should be open to allowing everybody to the table so that we can hear all their perspectives and how that impacts them. Because every time we make a policy decision that brings money from our pool is this big, and we take the money out of here and move it here, how is that going to negatively impact? Yeah. When you don't look at the people that you're negatively impacting, then you are not writing policy from the right perspective. And if you can't look the people in the eye that you're taking funding from, nursing homes, healthcare, education, and keep telling them to do more with less, then you're not doing policy on the right way. I think you have to own that the policy that you write negatively impacts people, and you have to be able to take that and defend it. And I can do that with every single vote that I've done.
Who's going to win if the vote was held today, Biden or Trump? And I know you're Democrats, you're going to just by default. So if that's the case, if you can't see it or answer objectively, at least say, okay, I'm just going to say Biden. But who do you think would win if it were today?
If it were today, I mean, I would hope that it would be Joe Biden. Mm-hmm. That's my hope.
Right.
But I am, I've worked so many years in trauma that I'm prepared the other way. And we just got to, like you said, you turned off the debate. Oh, yeah. Some of us have to just kind of struggle through. Life goes on. You have to work with it no matter what the outcome is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing President Trump is very good at doing is not just changing a narrative. He just changed the topic completely. So there's 31 days, 32 days left of the election. A lot's going to happen in these next 32 days. Yeah. I don't think there's ever been. I mean, most people obviously have already made up their mind, but boy, it's going to be an interesting last 30 days. Hey, so real quick, we do have a couple minutes. I want to ask you if you want to share. So wife swap, when was this?
2006.
Okay.
So a long time.
And what does that entail?
So my husband was at work and the kids were home and we were watching the show and they're like, we should apply. So we applied, and maybe about 6 or 7 months later, they called us And we're like, oh, okay. And we had a sportscaster. He was a football player, uh, baseball player that came out, Reggie. Oh, I can't remember who he is, but he came out and filmed us to do like a little act to see what we were like. And my husband still didn't even know we applied, and that, and then they called back and said, yeah, we want your family to do this show. So then I had to tell them, and and we did it, and it actually, Lauren and I, the wife that I changed places with, we're still friends today. She lives in Los Angeles, and we still, it was a great experience. And yes, it was hard. I mean, the whole grass is greener on the other side. Not necessarily true. She lived on Star Island with Shaquille O'Neal and a lot of other celebrities, and literally they were surprised. Like, her children didn't think that we had electricity in Wisconsin. They didn't know that food came from animals. I mean, it was just, and it was no fault of anybody's. It's just, you know, when you're raised in rural areas, there are things that we do that we just don't even think twice about. Yeah. And when you're raised in a really metropolitan area, there are things that they don't think about. And so it was really a very good, it was very interesting, great experience. And we literally had people from all over the United States that at that time willed their children, the custody of their children in case they died, to us. So we have all kinds of documents that we saved from that. We were one of the most watched shows. It was a really, you know, I was the bear hunting mom from Wisconsin, and she was the model agent from Florida.
How long was that? I mean, the recording, and how long was this whole process?
10 days.
Well, that's it?
Yeah, 10
days. I was thinking it was like 3 months or something.
No, it was 10 days. And yeah, it was really interesting. And actually, when they came out to film the first day, there was a snowstorm, and the crew was from New York, and they went in the ditch right down the road. And my husband, you know, trudged down there to help them, and they couldn't believe that all these cars had stopped to help them. You know, they just couldn't believe how nice people were here. And, you know, and my husband's like, it's not in the ditch, just gun it. And they're like, what's that? What does that mean? And that, so, yeah. So it was a fun experience. And, you know, another one of those things where opportunities knock on your door, you just can't be, you just can't be afraid.
Yeah. That is so cool. I'm going to have to see if I can find some of those clips on YouTube or something.
It was just on Lifetime last week. Every time it's on.
What?
Yeah, every time it's on, we get notices from all over the world. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That is so cool. I went to Chicago a few times, and that's like it. Like, that is the coolest story. I'm just saying, like, that is, like, I don't think I have one. I don't think I have like one of those stories.
Oh.
Yeah. I spent a night in Hennepin County Jail once.
Oh.
And we don't have time for that story, and I didn't do anything wrong. It was just a really bizarre, I mean, that was a nightmare. That was just horrible. And ever since then, I was really young. I can tell you, I've never had a speeding ticket. I'm a rule follower. So I don't want to spend another night doing that. That was horrible.
Yeah, I moved a patient at Oak Park Heights once during a ride along with ambulance service. I was as safe could be. I was so scared. I was so scared. I will never go there.
I don't blame you.
That's just how I am.
Patty, good luck to you this fall. Best wishes to you and your family, and be well. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. And you. Thank you. It was fun. And, you know, I'm so happy that you had such a positive story for your parents. That's good to know.
Yes. All right. Very special thank you to my guest today, Senator Patty Schachtner, and thank all of you for watching. Wishing all of you a wonderful and a happy weekend. Stay safe, keep your social distance, and as always, have a blessed day.